We are here to talk to you about the new infant and toddler court improvement project. See if I can get the clicker to work. As we talked about before, I was involved in Project Safe Start, which was a grant in the family treatment drug courts that worked with children 5 and under in child-parent psychotherapy. And we learned a lot of lessons through the implementation of that, and we learned a lot about the needs of children under 5 in the child welfare system. And so because of that, we have received a grant to start the court improvement project for infants and toddlers. And these are some of the things that we're going to be focusing on. Increasing the focus of infants and toddlers' needs in court hearings, enhancing legal representation, which is why Natalie is partnered with me, increasing the understanding and focus on well-being of court-involved infants and toddlers, identifying and addressing barriers, and partnering with other systems. So in order to do that, that's us. I've been introduced twice already, so I'm going to let Natalie introduce herself a little bit.
All right, I'm Natalie Nelson, and I'm an attorney in private practice in Holdridge, Nebraska. I've been in practice out there for about 7 years, I think, and before that was a case manager with the Department of Health and Human Services in Lincoln and in Omaha.
And as you all know from our last discussion, I'm a therapist because we talked about how we felt about kids being in court. I'm also a child parent psychotherapy trainer. There's 4 of us in Nebraska, so I'm very familiar with one of the evidence-based models. And then we also worked on court improvement system issues that were related to infants and toddlers, not just bringing the therapy. There's kind of 3 categories of things that we would be willing to provide if your team discussed and chose to have some kind of technical assistance, and some of that is coordination. We have a self-assessment that we could provide you with. We can do a full walkthrough for your team about what it's like for infants and toddlers in your system from the time that they begin until they leave the court system. We can do a barriers survey, we can do work with stakeholders, and maybe help partner with other systems like childcare, medical, mental health, and education. We can also provide training, so topics related to infants and toddlers, whether that's infant and toddler mental health or development. Natalie can maybe talk about what kind of GAL training she might.
Yep. I think as we were putting together kind of our strategic plan for this project, one of the things that came up was just making sure that attorneys and judges had the information that they need to be able to provide good representation for their juvenile court clients. And so if there's specific issues that your teams are running into or specific questions that you have, we want to be able to come out and either meet with your teams or meet via Skype based on location, whatever we need to do, to make sure that you have those resources to provide good representation for your juvenile court clients.
And then we'll also be producing some tools. So Natalie will be working on some sample GAL reports. We have already produced a checklist for infants and toddlers that we distributed. I think it needs to be redone, probably with the help of Kelly Inquist. Now that we have professional communication and design people, I know how much we need to redo some of the things we did before. A CAPTA checklist that we'll be redoing now that Rule 52 has changed. The trauma referral tool, which I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute. And then we can provide case-specific consulting for difficult cases with infants and toddlers. Throughout the course of Project Safe Start, that has happened a lot, where I've just gotten an email from, a caseworker or someone who said, I have a 3-year-old and this is what's happening, and I don't know what to do and I don't know where to go with this case. So on your feedback forms, there's a place that you can indicate that your team might be interested in having some kind of technical assistance. You don't have to decide, what depth, but if you would fill that out if you're interested and give us a contact person so that we can contact you and talk about maybe what you might want to work on. Are there any questions? No? So thank you. I mentioned the child welfare trauma referral tool. Is it yellow in their packets again? Or is it white? Okay, it was yellow in the other packets. This is something that's been happening in Douglas County that I've been doing some training for the Kim Foundation and Project Harmony, has been using this child welfare trauma referral toolkit. It's a mouthful. It's got a bunch of check boxes in it if you want to take it out and take a look at it. It's something your team might want to think about implementing. It is a great way to gather information in one place about the trauma that a child may have suffered and their symptoms. And it's a working document, so you can do it at baseline when they're coming into the system. You can do it as you gain more information. It's completely self-contained, so you don't need a manual to go with it. All of the definitions are in here, and you can be trained to use it, you know, in a very short period of time, and any of you could use it. It's also a tool that you can use with records and collateral information, so you don't have to provide a direct interview of the child. On the back page of it, there is a decision tree, which will tell you whether or not you should be making a general mental health referral or if the child should have a trauma-specific mental health referral. And then to follow up with that, you know, I would always be happy to answer questions, but maybe talking with your team about what evidence-based models are there that are specific for different age groups to treat trauma. So if you just have an example in there, you can take a look at it, see if that's something that you might want to work on. Also with your team, there's a question on the feedback form for you to get more information for that. Any questions about the tool? And it's free. You can just print it off the internet as much as you want. You don't have to have a license to use it. So that's great. Questions about the tool? Jen?
Who's using the tool? Is probation and HHS, are they both using it?
What I'm aware of is that in Douglas County, HHS and NFC are using the tool. And there was Kelly, is it Partnering Systems for Change? There was a committee that met to talk about one tool to use to identify kids' trauma and mental health needs. And so we have been, Debbie Anderson and I at Project Harmony have been training all of the HHS workers and all of the NFC workers we have been doing the full trauma toolkit, which is a 2-day training, and then about the tool. And then I've been doing, I think I did a series of 4 shorter trainings, but that's the history on the tool and who I know is supposed to be using it. So.
You may have said this, but is this tool being used by probation also?
Not to my knowledge. Although I would be happy to distribute it. But it is a child welfare tool, so, but it could be used, yes.
Many of our kids that are in the system at backup because they don't need to be a community side.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice because it gives a developmental perspective on trauma. So it goes from 1 to 19. It starts young. And then it also talks about symptoms. And there's a scale on here for things that need to be immediate stabilization. So it does help on the mental health side too, not just on the trauma side. So I think it's the question was brought up at one of them about how long it takes to do the tool, and I think we, in one training, did it in 11 minutes, so on a case. So it's not, you know, you can read through documents, you can get collateral information. It's very easy to fill out. So, any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.